So this is how I used to look, not the Mandalorian. This is how I used to look. And as you can see, looking pretty decent right now, actually. This is where we are currently. So I've been lifting for 16 years now. I know that's a long time thinking about it. There's a lot of things I did wrong along the way and had to learn by trial and error. There was not nearly as much information as there is today. You know, even with just TikTok and Instagram, even YouTube. There was YouTube when I first started, but there still wasn't even really much good information out there. So this is me when I first started lifting. I was about 120 pounds, soaking wet. I could barely bench press the bar. My friend would literally barbell curl my bench when I was done benching. So that's always some motivation. So the number one thing that I did wrong when I first started lifting, and even throughout the years of lifting, is consistency. Now, when I first started, like I said, I was very small, scrawny. I was also dealing with social anxiety, so even just being in the gym made me feel very anxious. So when I first started, I went with my friend who had already been lifting for a while. The biggest mistake that I made is not being consistent with it enough. My first couple of months, if my friend wasn't able to work out, I would not go to the gym. I remember he was taking a weight training class in school, and so for the couple months when he was taking that class, he wasn't going to our gym, and so I didn't go to the gym. And so I was not consistent with it those first couple months. And I didn't take advantage of newbie gains. Sticking with it week after week, even if you're not able to get the best workout, is important. So this is me after about a year of lifting. You know, I was able to get a little bicep peak going on. As I grew my hair out into the emo style, I grew out my muscles as well. This is about 2 or 3 years until lifting. I definitely put on some solid size from where I started, but I could have put on even more size because of the next mistake that I did, which was not focusing on diet enough. Now, I would do my workout, I would have a protein shake, and then that's about it as far as diet went. I would kind of just eat whatever I felt like, maybe have a protein bar here and there, but I really wasn't focused on bulking or cutting. I wasn't focused on even trying to eat proper foods. I would have a protein shake, a protein bar, and that's about it. And you know, that's perfectly fine if your goal is not to build as much muscle as you can. A lot of you guys nowadays really want to be optimal and do everything properly, which is great. Back then, I was just trying to get into being a gym bro. You know, I wasn't focused on the perfect workout, the perfect diet, none of that. I would just lift because I liked it. And you know, that's about it. I would cruise the bodybuilding forums. That's what we had back then, the miscellaneous section of the bodybuilding forums. That's where I found Ziz. I'm one of the few TikTok influencers that was actually a fan of Ziz while he was still alive. And before Ziz got popular again, you know, I was out here repping the Ziz pose, doing my thing when no one else was doing it anymore. So now that Ziz has made a comeback in these recent years on TikTok and Instagram and all that, I'm very happy to see that. I just kept lifting over the years. And like I said, I wasn't always consistent with it all the time. I have weeks where maybe I would work out only once or twice, or I might have a couple months where I did not work out at all. The third mistake that a lot of people make is that they give up completely. And I never gave up. I might have stopped for a little while, but I always found my way back to it. Always found my way. Whether I was depressed for a couple months and didn't work out, or you know, just wasn't able to get to the gym, whatever, I always came back to it year after year. I always got back in the gym. I might have lost a lot of gains, and then I just gain it back. Lose some again, gain it back. That's how your fitness journey is gonna be. It's not gonna be just pure gains all the time. There's gonna be things that come up, life happens, you get back into it. The main takeaway of that is that you just wanna be trending upwards. So you might crash down for a little while, but you get back into it, you trend upwards. And the beautiful thing about that is that once you have built muscle, it is always much easier to gain it back than it was to build it in the first place. So I always say you can achieve a similar physique to my own in 4 to 5 years if you do everything perfectly. However, if I stopped lifting for a couple of years and lost all this, I could gain it back in probably a year or less. Something to that effect, maybe even faster. But the point is that once you build that muscle, those muscle cells that you create, they're there for life. So that's why coming back to it, staying consistent, that's one of the biggest things. I always kept coming back to it. I kept lifting. I loved the gym. I loved how it felt. I loved making progress. And just, you know, the mental benefits of working out. It's a stress relief. It makes you feel accomplished. It's something that you can see progress in your day-to-day. And it's healthy. You know, a lot of people take for granted the health aspects, but lifting weights is a great way to just keep you healthy in general. So from year 6 to 10 of me lifting, but not really focusing on diet, just that pure consistency of lifting without even really bulking or cutting, I was able to build a pretty decent physique overall. It wasn't until about my 10th year of lifting, when I got interested in competing, that I started taking my diet more seriously. Once I decided that I was going to do a competition, I dialed in. I started tracking my calories, tracking my protein, keeping track of how much I'm eating each day and making sure I'm hitting my calorie number and my protein for each day. I don't worry about carbs or fats as much. You want to make sure you have a minimum of fats. As far as counting every individual macro, it's not necessary if you are hitting your calorie goals. Getting a minimum amount of fats or more and hitting your protein goals, you will be solid. So once I started competing, that's when I started to really get serious about it. That's when I did my first real cut. Going into my first and second show, I did my first 2 shows 1 week apart, so I got extra shredded because of that. After that, I started to do my first real bulk. Basically making sure I hit a certain amount of calories each day and not going under and not going too much over either. So for example, making sure I hit 3,000 calories a day, whereas before, I might eat whatever I want and some days only get to 2,300 calories, which is not enough to truly build optimal muscle, especially once you are more advanced. So once I started focusing on lean bulking, I was making sure I was hitting my calorie goals. When my weight started to stay the same, I would increase my calories again by around 200. And I would stay at that. And then every time my weight started to stay the same, I would add another 200 calories. And so on and so forth. Put on a good amount of size, put on good muscle, but of course you put on some fat as well. So then I would do a cut, which led to my next show. And I would repeat this process over and over. And that is what I still continue to do to this day. To this day!
To this day! To this day!
And that leads into my 4th tip, which is similar to the second one, which is to count your calories. Track what you're getting each day and making sure you're hitting those exact numbers each day. That is going to be the most optimal way for you to bulk up and build muscle, and that is the most optimal way to cut down and lose that body fat effectively. And finally, the 5th bonus tip. The 5th bonus tip that has only been really coming into play the last couple years that I've been very advanced is being very mindful of my workouts. Meaning making sure that my intensity and form is on point for every set, every rep. Now, when you're working out, you think you're going as hard as you can, you're really struggling, you're going all in, but a lot of time your form breaks down, or you're not really giving it your all. You're not really taking it to true failure. You're not really trying to feel it in your muscle as you're working. Or you might get lazy for a couple sets or a couple reps. You might not give it your all. You might say, oh, that was pretty much failure. Maybe you had greater intensity that you could have been giving it. Something that even to this day, most bodybuilders, most fitness influencers still need to be reminded of, because it's easy to get complacent. It's easy to go through the motions and do a set and be like, oh, that's just another warm-up set. You don't need that many warm-up sets. If you did your first warm-up set, you don't need 2 more warm-up sets, and then the next set is when you're finally gonna actually go with intensity. So a lot of people are wasting their volume on sets that are not really doing much. They're just going through the motions. So making sure you have that intensity is another very important factor. Which leads me to today. I've also dealt with some injuries over the years. I had a pretty bad injury that lasted me about 2 years. And so I was not able to effectively bulk until very recently. So now that I've been feeling good, I'm excited to put on some more muscle, because believe it or not, there are still more gains to be made. And you can always improve. There's always body parts you can improve. Your diet can always be improved. Your intensity can be improved. This is a journey that we are on together. We are all gonna make it. That's what Ziz said. And basically what that means is we are all going to push ourselves to our limits. We are all going to evolve and become better versions of ourselves and push each other. And that's what it's about. That's what the real Ziz legacy is about. It's like, it's about us. That's what the real Ziz legacy is about pushing yourself and pushing others to be the best. So that is a little bit about my journey and some mistakes I made along the way that you don't have to make now. So make sure you pay attention, stick with it. Let me know what you guys think of this video, what you want to see more of. Like, leave a comment, and as always, let's get these gains.